Coming to you live.
Yes, live.
Live.
Welcome to the Ref Room.
Hockey talk for parents, players, coaches, and fans.
Text everyone you know. Facebook, chat, tweet, buzz, bling. I don't know. Just do what you have to do.
This is the Ref Room with Scott and Brad.
Come on, come on, come on. It's about to go down.
The Ref Room starts right now.
Yes, it does. Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday. It is time to have lunch in the Ref Room. Break out your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I know Brad has two of them waiting for him over there, and he is ready to go. We are back. Last week, AT&T failed me, and the best comment came from Marty Tong. He goes, delay of game. We get a 2-minute penalty for that. I said it was a match penalty because we didn't get back our internet service till almost 7:30 that night. They said we'd be back up by 4. Went down at 10 a.m. So we are back. So we apologize for missing you guys last week because we had a lot to talk about. So that just means we have doubly more to talk about this week and get caught up. We've got our special guest today joining us. Our referee-in-chief, Eric Kousel, is here with us. We will bring him on in a second. But we have some actual breaking news right now that I want to put up. I'm sure some of you have heard the news and some of you have not heard the news, but the NHL has fired referee Tim Peel. That's pretty major. Caught on an open mic. Thing. Yeah, breaking news. Do you like that? Yeah, hey, we do different. We do it right here, okay? So we have breaking news that the NHL has fired referee Tim Peel. We say all the time, guys, there's cameras everywhere. And there's microphones everywhere. And he got caught making a comment on an open mic and had something to do with calling a effing penalty early on the Predators. And he has now paid the ultimate price for it. I guess he was going to retire at the end of the season anyway, so I guess they've sped that up. I don't know if that affects his pension. if that changes things for him, that could very well be the case. Not sure. But your thoughts on that? Do you know Tim?
Yeah, I've met him a couple times being down in Missouri. He runs the Tim Peel camp as well. So he's got a lot of stuff going on that he's still got plans for. So, but no, they got rid of him like you said for the comment that he made. And the worst part was it was caught by Nashville's TV broadcast coming out of a commercial. It sounds like, according to the article. And somebody caught it on the TV, and then they took it and they uploaded it to social media, and it became super trending. Viral. So, unfortunately, I think probably justified. He was trying to make a point that he wanted to get a penalty early for whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
But it sounds terrible on paper. So I get it. Really I get where the NHL is, and like I said to you, Scott, beforehand. The owners and teams aren't doing this for peanuts.
No, they're not.
They can't have their officiating integrity questioned at any point, which is terrible because I'm sure that's all taken out of context. But, it is what it is.
I mean, referees do talk during the game. They talk before the game in the locker room. But they're usually not talking about, like, I need to call a specific penalty. They're talking about, like, the standard of play, making sure that they get a good first penalty to get the game started when they have one, that, they're not making a ticky-tacky call. You want to get off to a good start when it does happen, and hopefully you don't even have one. I mean, you want to go as long as you can without one. Especially, every game's got a different pulse to it. So this is some of the stuff that we can kind of cover today. I want to bring in our referee in chief here is with us today, and that is Mr. Eric Kousel. So let me bring Eric in right now. Oh, go ahead.
Before you move, look at that comment that's over there on the right. And you know what? Looking at it, like I'm looking at all the articles right now, he does make an excellent point.
All right. So from what I've seen, Tim is no longer working NHL games. They were careful to not use the terms fired, terminated, or relieved of duties in the press release. Well, I haven't seen the press release. I saw numerous articles, and I thought we would actually share a couple of those because there were a couple very interesting comments that some of the people that had commented on this had made, and I do want to take a look at those before we are done today. So we'll try to do that. So thank you for the comment, Matt, as always. And Marty Tong said, refusal to start show. Funny, because what is the topic today? The topic today is refusal to start play and Scoresheets. So, yeah, we did refuse to start play last week. So we are sorry for that. I would have even been happy to have had Steve Rickard's dial-up service from AOL if I could have done that. So, yeah, we always pick on Steve for his dial-up service, but it's all good. All right, let's bring Eric in right now. Eric, how are you? We are going to get you up here. There we are. Eric has joined us, our referee-in-chief, because I know he wants to talk about Scoresheets today and several other things. But, the thing that happened with Tim is very unfortunate. What's your thoughts, Eric?
I think it just goes back to your earlier point that, we're being recorded and taped everywhere we go. So you got to be careful. Verbal, nonverbal, just, there's no hiding anymore. So we just got to be careful what we're doing, what we're saying out there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And, we say it all the time because, there's live barn or something going on and you think you're having a private conversation, but the reality of it is you're probably being picked up on a microphone. So a word to the wise, choose your words carefully and what you're talking about, guys. Referees do like to have private conversations and discuss scenarios or situations, but those conversations may not be private. So be aware of that.
Be aware of where live barn is in these rinks.
Yeah.
There's sometimes that you do need to talk to your partner because you're between either a major in a game or, possibly a match. And you're like, I kind of want to talk to somebody else, because they're out there, they're looking at it, they've seen it. Try to have that conversation where you're not picked up, because the worst thing that could happen is you say, hey, I got a 5 in a game, and your partner goes, well, I wouldn't have called anything. And that gets caught on microphone, which that could be totally exactly what it is. They didn't see it, or they weren't really looking at it, or their angle was unjustified.
Different angle. Different
and
angle.
then all of a sudden it puts you two against each other. And then when somebody has to go look at it, they're like, well, why did he say this? And the other one, and it's all, again, like I said, taken out of context, but it's, just something you got to be mindful of. Just like when you're refereeing on the ice and you need to talk to your partner, just cover your mouth. You can hear me just fine right now.
Yeah, like the NFL coaches, put that piece of paper across your face.
Exactly, yeah, because they're talking into the headset.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but no, I get it. But yeah, just be careful. And, we're going to have conversations about things that people aren't going to agree with. But let's try to keep them to ourselves if we can.
We do have some difficult decisions to make sometimes, guys, and you hope that you have a private moment with your partner or partners when you're doing that. So, probably a little safer in the ref room than it is on the ice, obviously. So, but that's the way it goes. Scoresheets. Eric had wanted to come on and talk to us about Scoresheets today.
Let him.
And this is actually a really good topic, guys, because we see different score sheets. We have different people in the penalty box. A lot of people don't know what they're supposed to do. Some people just decide they don't need to do anything while they're back there. So maybe Eric had cover some of those things today for us.
Do you guys have that example that I sent you last week? I don't know, Brad, if you had a chance to black out
I didn't have a chance to black it out, so I wasn't going to put it up today.
That's fine.
That's the only bad part.
Yeah, it's just, we've, in the 7 or 8 weeks that we've been open, the amount of...
Can you get a little closer to your mic? You're a little low there, Eric.
All right, I'll start screaming. Is that better?
A little bit. Hopefully you guys can hear. If you can hear it, put a comment in the comments, please, guys.
That's fine.
I can hear him, but I'm worried.
Yeah.
Just since we've been open, the amount of issues that we've had on Scoresheets is, for lack of better words, unacceptable. And, I know we've kind of been out of a routine for 9 months, and I get it, but, come seminar season this time around, we're going to be really hammering on the Scoresheets because I'm not sure if people realize, when a score sheet is filled out incorrectly, the amount of legwork that causes people behind the scenes.
Wow. No, I don't think guys are aware of that. So why don't you tell them what goes into a score sheet if there's a situation?
Well, essentially it could come down to, if there's something, major in game or match worthy and it's not recorded, then there's a lot of conversations and investigating work that goes on of whether or not it should be upheld. So it just creates a lot of phone calls and emails that, we wouldn't need to have if it were just done right the first time. And if that means you got to track down the scorekeeper, take it in the locker room, take a picture of it, make sure rosters are on the right side, just all kinds of things that we're seeing this year.
Well, Brad and I were having a conversation probably about 2 weeks ago leading up to the show when we were talking about the score sheets. And I had a situation where I had a parent in the box and we had no penalties in the first 2 periods, but we called some penalties in the third period and we went over to sign the score sheet. And it's like, there's no penalties on the score sheet whatsoever. Dude, what are you doing? Oh, I didn't know I needed to write those down. Well, why do you think we come over and tell you the penalty? Is it just to inform you because you're sitting there? And I said, sir, this is a legal document. I mean, this is important. That's why you're behind the glass here to do the job of recording the penalties. I mean, it's, and he goes, oh, I'll hire an attorney. That was his comment to me. And I went like, really? Honestly? I was blown away. But it's not the first time I've had stuff like this happen. I had parents on the North Shore that just decided the phone call was more important than the score sheet that day, and they got tied up on a phone call, so they didn't bother to keep track of anything. I mean,
well, the worst was Scott. I said to you right after you told me that story, and you hadn't told me that you had no penalties in the first and second period, because I was like, well, just as you're in between the first period and second period, slide in to make sure
went
they're
over
recording
and checked.
things.
Went over and checked. It's like there's nothing to check on. We had no penalties in the first 2 periods. Go over for the third period to sign the score sheet, and there's nothing there. You also have people that don't put the times on. Guys, if the clock goes down, you need to know like what time a penalty started. Just write down the penalty, not for the referees, but for the people that are keeping score. I almost wonder if we could have, just like they have in all the scorers boxes, they have instructions on how to operate the clock. Eric, why can't we have a sheet in there with regard to how to fill out a score sheet properly? Because they're not supposed to check the box for yes or no if there was a major penalty. That's our job. They're not to cross off anything for suspensions. That's our job. They need some instruction. I think that's sometimes part of the problem, that a lot of them just don't know what to do. And they don't understand, if you have a 2 and 10, that's 2 separate penalties. So they write down the head contact and they don't write anything else. And you're always having to go in and put an arrow and write the misconduct in and try to fix it for them. And you'll tell it to them. You'll say it to them 5 times and they'll acknowledge, yes, I totally understand. You don't have to keep saying it to me. And then when you get to the score sheet, it's not there. So that's kind of what we deal with on a regular basis. So is there a way to get something into these boxes or have even a little video? Like there should, we take training classes all the time. We should have a training class for how to run the clock and how to do a score sheet.
Oh, yeah. I wish you luck with that, Scott. I mean, I like the idea.
Yeah,
but
Mark has a great idea. What about making the scorekeepers go to a class and get certified? Well, Mark, I agree with you there. I don't know that they need to go to a class, but they could certainly take an online, little seminar or something that could be on demand that they could just download. And then they could, even have a couple of questions like, how do you write down a 2 and a 10 or whatever the case may be? It's certainly doable in this day and age that we could have something like that. And it's something that I'm sure a lot of parents would be happy to do because they do want to do it right. They just haven't been trained yet. So, especially around.
Yeah, I think it would be a good suggestion that at least maybe the managers have to take some sort of course to teach their parents how to fill it
the
out.
Managers have a hard time sometimes just getting stickers for their score sheets. Okay, I mean,
I saw
seriously.
a score sheet last week, and they had put the home team was on the left, and then the visiting's on the right, and they put the stickers where the goals are supposed to be recorded, and the rosters were still there. And I was like,
yeah,
all right, I gotta ask, does this make sense to anyone?
Yeah,
and they were like, oh. I wasn't really paying attention. I'm like, well, this is kind of important.
Yeah.
Like, I always let them know that it's a legal document. I do have that score sheet, Eric, if you want, allow me to share it.
You can throw it up there.
To you. I mean,
yeah, that's a good example. I know a lot of clubs, as a parent, part of what you're signing up for is just to work the board once. So that might be the one time the season that they're doing it. So it kind of comes back to our whole pregame. Like I always, at some of the lower levels or, just go into the box before the game and say, hey, you ever worked the board before? Do you need us to give you an extra minute if we got something? And, sometimes they'll say, yeah, this is my first time ever doing this, or, no, I'm good. Do it all the time. But even, as the game goes on, just kind of, look through the glass and make sure they're writing stuff down right. Yeah, the 20 or 30 seconds we take then is going to save you 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour later on.
Boy, you just hit the nail on the head because you may be there after the game for a half hour and have to get a score sheet re-signed or something by a coach. I mean, it's not fun to do, and it takes a lot of time. And if you're in a rush trying to get to another game or something, good luck to you. So, yeah, it really does make a difference if you spend that couple seconds just checking things between periods.
Absolutely.
We got a few comments. Let's see what we got. Karen. Hey, Karen. Thanks for joining us. Sometimes the scorekeeper feels pressured to keep up with the game, and you have to know the score sheet really well to get everything recorded. Just having a blank sheet of paper to take notes to record later takes a little of the pressure off. Yeah, you make a very good point there, Karen. a lot of the people that know what they're doing, they will keep a scratch piece of paper there and make some notes that they need to. And, you know, the good ones know, like when you will go over and go, hey, do we have anybody that nobody got 2 misconducts or anything like that? If you want to check in on them and see, and they're like, oh, no, I got them written down here. You know, a lot of times if you go over and say, hey, if they get a misconduct, write their name and number down here on a separate sheet of paper so we know. So if we come up with 2, we know we got to send that kid packing. So little things like that. Anything you want to add to that, Brad? Because you're the master of this.
That's an excellent point. The other, you know, to keep a scratch sheet of paper, you know, I've seen that before where they just put the numbers down. So if they see the number again, they put a line next to it.
Yep.
That's how they count. I mean, is it really their job? No. Does it help us out in the long run?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, big time.
The other thing is, you know, we touched on it a little bit before, Scott. I can't remember if it was a personal conversation or what we had on here. I think it was on here. A lot of clubs are starting to transition over to electronic score sheets, which I like the electronic score sheet because when you do it, I hadn't done one in a while, and I had one last week. When you can't finish the game until you physically filled everything out. So like stuff like that I have up on my screen, Scott, I don't know if you can share it when you get a chance. Stuff like this.
You should have a button on there to say share screen. Now, I don't know how that's going to work when we got 3 people up here. So you can go ahead and hit the share screen button.
Just let me know. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know how.
You might have to hit it back.
We've never done this.
Yeah, we haven't. Normally, I do everything from this end. So if you want to email it to me, I can always. Yeah, if you email it to me, I can put it up. Okay.
Okay. But that's one of the best things about these electronic score sheets is, you know, you can't leave the game until it's, you know, it asks you, you know, is there a major game misconduct? Yes. And you have to physically check it. And at the end of it, what's cool about it is you have to, you know, sign it and do all that. But if you have a game report that you have to file, I had a coach show me last year that there's a little option that you click, and I'd have to have the thing in front of me in order to find it. But you click it, and it says email score sheet 2. And you can put your email into it, and boom, you hit it, and you probably have your phone sitting in the scorekeeper box or in the room, wherever you're filling it out.
Yep, and you got it.
You can literally look at it right then and there, and you have that score sheet. I mean, it's the one thing is great about it is that. The bad thing is that does not back up during the game. So if the iPad goes dead, if the scorekeeper falls down and breaks it, if a puck comes flying in and it hits them in the head, their hat's flying in the air, they're down on the ground like a cartoon, they break the thing. Well, there's nothing there. So electronic score sheets always have a paper one with it. Do both, because it's a pain in the butt to go back.
That's a really nice thought, but I think probably the fact that they have the electronic score sheet there, they probably don't have a score sheet in the box or anywhere near them, because I've actually had managers have to go home to get a score sheet for a game because they didn't know they had to have one.
Just get a piece of paper. Oh. I mean, I don't care. If I'm reffing the game, you are going to have a physical paper copy with you, because I'm sorry, technology's great until it fails.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, and kudos to you for getting that done and being aware of it and making it happen. But I think, you're right. It would save us all a lot of trouble in the long run. It's not a bad idea. Eric, can we have a policy for something like that? Can we inform the teams that even if they have electronic, they still need to have a regular score sheet in the box? And at that point, would they do both, or would they probably only do one?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How would be affected? I mean, let's say they had the paper score sheet. We go and sign the paper score sheet. Now, technically, they've transferred everything over to the iPad or the electronic score sheet. Is that a legal document now? Because we're not really the ones maybe signing that if they had us do the paper one. So where does that come in terms of a transfer from paper to electronic or electronic to paper? I mean, are we looking at opening up a can of worms here?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for you, but that's certainly because I think as we see more and more teams go to electronic, it'll probably be a conversation we're going to have at some point. But I think to Brad's point, it's just a good precaution just to have a paper copy there anyways.
I agree. And, Brad made a great point to me when we were having a private conversation. We were having a phone. Brad and I, in case you guys don't know, like Brad and I, the phone rings at 1 o'clock in the morning. Oh, you up? You got a few minutes to talk? And then next thing you know, it's 2:30 in the morning and we're still talking. And we have all these scenarios and all these things that we discuss. But he made a great point. And when I said I had a parent that didn't fill out the score sheet, I'm like, I can't sign this because I don't have the information. Brad said, you really need to do an incident report in that situation. And that's a great idea. That's not something that I was aware of in my 9 years, that means you need to do an incident report. Yeah, I guess it makes a lot of sense if you think about it, that should be an incident report. Rather than, fortunately, we had no bad issues. There were no 2-10s. There were no misconduct. There was nothing that required a conversation with somebody, but it is a good idea to go in and do an incident report. If you have something that's not right with the score sheet or you had to make a lot of changes, probably a good idea to notate that somewhere. Anything you want to add to that, guys?
Well, the point that I'll turn it over to Eric to explain. I mean, I know the reason why we have incident reports here, and I know that it's pretty standard across the country, but every place does it a little differently. They might call it something different. But Eric, what's the actual point of our incident report system? I mean, you get what I mean. Explain it to people why we have it there in the first place, because an incident report is something totally different than a game report, which a game report covers actual things in the game, correct?
Yeah, so the game reports are for anything that happens during the game on the ice. The incident reports are for everything off the ice. And as far as Illinois goes, it's the game reports all get handled by one committee within AHI, and the incident reports get handled by another. Sometimes they go hand in hand. If something happened in a game and you also have to write up an incident report, then that information is shared. But back to the whole score sheet, that was a good recommendation to fill one out, because that way we have a paper trail on it and we know. And if somebody after the fact asks about it, then we already have it in writing than having to, circle back and trying to figure something out.
Yeah, that was a great point. So appreciate that.
What percentage of game reports and incident reports are investigated?
All.
I'm just pointing that out to people, because a lot of people talk about it and they say, I wrote this up and I never hear anything about it. And I reassure them that someone is looking into it. They look into all of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, some are a lot more clear cut than others. Of 5 in a game, injury happened on the play. Okay, that's pretty cut and dry. Move on. But yeah, all of them are read. It doesn't just go off into some place that's never looked at. Ideally, what I like to be able to circle back to everybody and say, hey, this was looked into. Absolutely, but it's a logistical nightmare to follow up on all those things with all the officials. But yeah, absolutely, every one of them is looked at.
Well, just out of curiosity, when you click that button for a game report, how many people get that email? Same thing with the incident report.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe about 10.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like ding, 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 ding. If you're in the room, everybody's alert goes off. So, yeah, definitely getting looked at by a lot of people. Let's look at a couple more of the comments here, guys. So we had Mark said each team, home and visitors, should provide a representative from their team to be in the box. And I can't read what's underneath that because I got a notification there. For the game. Anyway, yeah, Mark, typically that's the case, but, we're seeing more and more of the teams that don't have somebody in the scorer's box. Not in the scorer's box, but in the penalty boxes, like to work the doors. A lot of times that's being left just to the players, and that could very well be because social distancing or whatever the case may be. So, you used to have somebody in the box for each of them, but, it's nice if you do. Tony. Hey, Tony, hope you're feeling better. Tony suffered a similar injury to mine, and I hope he's almost back now. Don't let them write on the back of carbon. Carbon copy, I think is what he's trying to say there. Yeah, carbon copy score sheet. All right, and let's see. Now, for those of you that are coming in as a Facebook user, please click the link. Click the link that Brad has provided for us so that you can join in the conversation and we know who you are. Stagger home, visitor penalty column when under single area. And let's see, Eric, turn on your party lights in the background. Yeah, that's a song. Turn up the party lights. Actually, see, now, Eric, what you should do is say, well, that's what they use on a lot of the live streams to give it some good looks, but you have to turn them on so that you get the effect. Otherwise, it looks like you're in a stabbing cabin from Christmas, okay?
Here you go. Hang on. Would it be better is if he's got a tree around the corner and he just turns
there you go. There you go. See, now it's got some ambiance. Yes. Very nice.
Now, what's funny about it is, Eric, I did say it to you before we started that you should turn those on before somebody points it out.
Yep. So, it was the obvious, but they did get pointed out. So glad to see that somebody else is paying attention.
Yeah. Eric, the one thing that I want to point out with these score sheets is if somebody has to talk about them, we're talking about, they go in on Monday morning and somebody looks at them right away and then they're talked about and investigated upon. It's not often, but how big of it is it when they come back and there's a lawsuit about something and they come in and they get a score sheet that is just a nightmare. And they look at it and go, whoa, like 4 years later. I mean,
I don't think it's happened in 4 or 5 years, but I think
we've been lucky.
It's a question of it'll happen, with the way people are these days. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I want nothing to do with it. So why not just take the time and get it done right?
Yeah, and do your best. I'll admit, so with all this pandemic going on and all that, and me and a partner were out skating a game a couple weeks ago, and it's a high school game, and our first call of the game at 14:26. So, 40 seconds into the game is a minor checking from behind with a misconduct. So we call it and referee the rest of the game. No incident, whatever. I get in the scorekeeper box. And it says 5 minutes for slashing and a game misconduct. And I'm like, This is totally wrong. Yep. Like, and I tell the scorekeeper, I go, if you have a question, let us know. So as I'm there, I go, all right, how am I going to do this? And I write a C where the slash line is, because I'm going to write CFB for checking from behind. Well, then a coach comes up and then two players come up and then they're asking us stuff and we're talking about this. And then another coach comes up and all that. Well, stupid me. I didn't scratch out the slash in the game misconduct and put in the 2 and 10, which I know is absolutely 100% what I was doing because I wrote a C in the line. And we got an email about it. And it was, hey, boys, where's this game report? And it was like, oh, crud. So text my partner. I'm like, hey, that was the check from behind, wasn't it? He's like, yeah, absolutely. We both emailed him. It was settled within 35 minutes. Yeah. They made a notation on the game. They clarified it. If you ever get home and you might have a copy of the score sheet, I know some people always take one, and you see an error, file an incident report. Just let it known. If somebody's looking for it, how important is it for them to get back to you, Eric? Like in a timely fashion, like.
Oh, very, very important. And, I would recommend to everybody if you've got something after the game, pick up the phone before you give it back to anybody. Hey, I had this happen. What's a good way to handle this?
Oh, I'm curious. Are all the score sheets looked at? Like, let's say there's no issues. You got 2 penalties. There's a trip and a hook, and that's it. Those sheets are only the ones that have an issue are checked. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, if it's, if you 1 or 2 penalties, nothing happened in the game, there's there's no point to look at that. But if you've got a match penalty, absolutely that score sheet is being looked over very closely.
Of course.
Yeah, and
Makes perfect sense.
And you definitely don't want to put in the one that I sent you, Scott, if you can share it.
Yeah. Let me get to that. I'll pull it up. I do want to add a little comment to that. And when you're looking at these score sheets and you have the electronic score sheets, I mentioned this when we did the show before. I had a situation at one of the newer rinks that was using the electronic score sheet, and it pulls down like a code. And so like basic penalties were coming up as 5 in majors and games and everything else. And it was like, that was a 2-minute trip, or that was a 2-minute slash. And I mean, they were writing them up as 5 in a game, this and that. And, it was a disaster. We had to go in and like literally correct everything. So especially these electronic score sheets, the way they're doing it with entering a code, I don't know that they're very accurate. So guys, you really need to look at those. That's the point I want to make.
But and it does happen. That's why I'll call myself out. I mean, it happens.
Match penalties are no fun. No, they're not, because you're probably going to get a call from what they call an investigator.
Someone.
Yeah. I mean, I had a match penalty earlier this year in an adult game. Just forced my hand because of what happened. There's no issue after it. I called Eric, made a recommendation. I still got an investigator that called me, believe it or not. And I saw the guy at the game a couple weeks later, and I was like, what did you end up getting? And he didn't get my recommendation. He got a little more than my recommendation, but it is what it is. So, it does happen. Let's see. Karen's got a comment here. Now, that would be helpful, having standard abbreviations for the penalties. I struggle to write the whole penalty out in a timely fashion. I never really thought about having abbreviations. Brad, you like to use abbreviations for penalties?
Checking from behind is really long.
Okay.
Cross-checking, you can just make an X with a hyphen and then ing.
So you have signals for your penalty sheet, right?
Well,
your score sheet.
I'm just saying, there's ways to get through it, but Karen, that's a good point. But the one thing is for that there's supposed to be 2 people in the box. The one is the scorekeeper and the other is the timekeeper. So the timekeeper is supposed to be running the clock, so putting the penalty up, doing all that. The official person with the score sheet is the scorekeeper. So that's you should have enough time, because you should have 2 people, just like you should have 2 people in the penalty boxes. And like USA Hockey, there's a protocol to let people out of the bench. Now, for a penalty, I think I'm a little rusty here, so if somebody wants to correct me, it's been a long time since I've looked at it. But the penalty bench attendant's hand goes on the door handle at 5. They physically open the door at 3 seconds, and it's the player's responsibility to jump out at 0. 99. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I bet you it's been like 15 years since I saw the standard for that and the instructions. But there is a protocol for it written out somewhere. So, but just throw that out there. But that's what's supposed to happen. You should have a scorekeeper and a timekeeper and penalty bench attendants. So that should alleviate some of that. But I understand, especially if you're writing in a multiple penalty situation. But that's also up to the referees. Like, if I have something like that, I'm like, all right, just take your time, write it out as I'm saying it. And I say it, and we get it all written out. And we start the game back up afterwards. So that's just as much on the referee sometimes.
And if you got a lot going, guys, take your riot pad out and write it down. If you know you got a situation where they're going to struggle in the penalty box, just write it on your ref pad or your riot pad. That'll help you get through it. All right, here's the score sheet that you wanted me to put up and show.
Yeah, if anybody happens to know whose score sheet this is, or the people that work the game see it, and this is not.
Hang on. I don't want all my stuff showing up.
It's a good thing I have an appropriate name for my email account. But this is not to call anybody out. This is not to be a jerk. We're just using this because this is what it is. So, I mean,
Eric, do you want to walk some people through some of the mistakes here that we are seeing on this score sheet?
Sure.
Let me see if I can.
Let's start right up at the top in the middle. Who worked the game?
Yeah, that's okay. So
We
I'm
should
gonna
always print our names.
You zoom in on it, Scott?
Yeah, let's see if we can zoom in on some of this stuff. So
there you go.
Everybody knows,
it's gonna snap back, but up at the top.
Yeah, everybody has ways of finding out who we are, so we're not hiding anything. Just print your name up there. The goals section, they crossed it out. The penalty section was crossed out, but
The suspensions box was not changed. That should have been crossed off.
Right? Yep. The scoring section, let's make sure that equals the goals that are written above.
Right. At the bottom, under where it's all blacked out, very bottom right, hopefully you can see it, there's the yes or no box with regard to major penalty with the yes or no, and that hasn't been checked either. So
I blacked it out pretty good on the fly, didn't I?
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
did.
want to get those or
yeah.
Yep.
And there's nothing in the periods over where the penalties are, and you have an open line. I mean,
So it's good that you blacked this
things
out so we can't see your name on this, Brad.
Yeah.
Is this the game you and Council work together?
No skating backwards in that game though either.
Right,
so.
right.
But no, and then also at the top, if you look, what level was this thing? I mean, luckily, the one team has squirt on their sticker.
Right.
But if this came in, it's an issue. But Eric, you're skipping over why this score sheet became such a travesty.
Well, during this game, a coach was ejected. So is there anywhere in the penalty section you see where a coach was tossed?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm struggling to even read what's on there. So it looks like hieroglyphics to me. So if you have an ejection for a coach, do you have like a hangman's noose or something that shows he was like sent packing?
Well, you obviously don't work in medical, Scott, because you should see some of the stuff that I get in my office. And
I bet.
try to read
doctor's
others.
Handwriting. Yeah.
I can read my doc's handwriting, but when it comes from other doctors, sometimes I'm like, what is that? And then I have to give it to Doc, and he's like, oh, that's this. I'm like,
it looks like
okay.
Trip, holding, checked.
And then skip.
Then
line,
there's a blank
bench
space.
minor.
Oh, that says bench minor? Okay.
Yeah.
And then everything else is crossed off. So where's the coach ejection?
That's a good question. That's why this score sheet became an issue.
Oh, but this was a squirt game, so that's automatic that there's a coach ejection, right?
Unfortunately, it happened. But
Eric, as long as we got on that subject, squirts are probably the toughest level to work for a lot of the officials. We probably have more situations with squirt coaches than we do any other age group? Is that a fair statement?
I want to say out of the 300-ish complaints that were written in, what would be 2 years ago now, a majority of them were around Pee Wee games at various levels.
Okay, so Pee Wee is tougher than the squirt. I would think it would be squirt, personally.
Based on the numbers of complaints that get written in, it's Pee Wee.
Okay. That's good to know. Because, we have our younger officials working a lot of these games. And so it's tougher. Yep. It's tough on them. And that's how we end up losing some of them. So I was just kind of curious if it was squirt, but it's Pee Wee. That's great to know.
But yeah, now you can see, as far as this score sheet goes, now you can see why, because there was a coach ejected, but it's not written down, technically he didn't get thrown out. Technically he shouldn't sit. So
does that mean
just made a whole ton of work for other people?
Yeah, all that work, and the coach doesn't even pay the price for what he was ejected for.
Right. So because we didn't do our job, he may get nothing.
Did he get nothing?
I believe he got something, but it's just the
okay.
The point of
I got you.
It just takes us a few seconds to make sure we write that on there, and then write up the report afterwards. But
yep. I'm going to go back to showing all of us. I hope you guys had a chance to look at that, but it's not as entertaining as looking at the three of us.
Especially now that Eric has his mood lighting.
Right. Yeah. Eric's got the lighting. Brad's got the haircut. It's all good.
I needed a haircut.
What was the other topic that you guys had for today?
So our other big topic was refusal to start play, because I guess we've
where
had
we
a
get
couple
off, right?
situations. Is that right, Eric? Do you want to talk about those? And then we're going to explain the rule to everybody and how this works and what the progression is.
Yeah, so far, since mid-January, so about 2 months, we've had 3 instances where teams have just up and pulled their team off the ice for whatever reason.
3 instances already.
Yep.
Wow. I've had it happen to me once. I had it happen a few years back in a summer league game, or a spring league game, I guess it was, at a tournament, and it was a final. Coach pulled his players, left the parent on the bench, the manager, to get the match penalty. He goes, "Oh, I got to go if the coach is going." Well, you're the one that's getting stuck with the match penalty. You sure you want to go? Yeah, if he says I got to go, I got to go. So he went. I don't know what happened. Well, again, you never know after that what happens, but it happened.
The biggest issue with the refusal to start play, and I think a lot of people fail to realize why it's a match penalty. I mean, other than it's just the ultimate act and kind of acting like a baby. Other than that, a hockey game, we've covered it quite a few times, Scott, with the practices that lead up to it, and then them getting on the ice. You got to buy the ice. Then you have to set the time. You got to have the one team drive in. Let's say they came from Canada to play, and they're playing you, and you pull your team off the ice. Yeah. You just cost them all that money.
This was a Colorado and St. Louis game I had. The coach from St. Louis pulled his team. So here they are for a championship game. You came from Colorado, and you
better
pulled
be careful there, Scott. There's quite a few St. Louis guys that watch this every week.
They'll figure it out. It was years ago, though.
A hockey game costs so much. Like, I know we've been talking about it. We have somebody that wants to come in and talk about the breakdown of a hockey game, and hopefully one day he'll have the opportunity to. I know he's got a new coaching gig, so I don't know how busy that's keeping him, but that's the biggest thing. It looks terrible too. Anytime you see a video of it, it's just a bunch of people running away from a hockey game while the other team's like,
"I'm taking my ball and I'm going home." The game is over.
It's very frustrating. Sorry to interrupt you, Castle, but that's the big thing. I want to make sure that everybody knows that it's a very expensive proposition.
Yeah, think about the cost of putting on a hockey game, guys. We have the ice time. We have the ice time. We had an hour and a half sheet of ice, probably $10 a minute. We got to pay for the referees. We had to get everybody there. So everybody had to get in a car, spend money on gas. They had to buy the equipment. They had to get on the ice. They had to pay the coaches. They had to eat. Maybe they had to travel to get there or whatever the case may be. You start adding up all the costs to that hour and a half game. We have a big responsibility out there, and it's Wednesday, so the phone has to ring. That's for my extended car warranty, okay? So that I can get my warranty extended. I appreciate that.
There's a little button here on the side of your phone.
I didn't know that.
Just flick that.
Where is that?
It's on Wednesdays.
It's always Wednesday.
The cost is the biggest issue here. Like I said, other than acting like a baby and pulling your team off the ice. The cost, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. Plus, Eric, don't you think it's a way of disrespecting your opponent on top of it? I mean, what do you think? What are your guys' thoughts actually on it if it happened to you? Because when it happened to me, I was like, I can't believe they left. Like, we got a game to finish here. Like, I don't get it. Like, I was very confused. Then, it was a peewee game, which is kind of funny, Castle, that you said that we have the most issues. And he pulled his team off the ice because we were assessing too many penalties. That was the reason.
So because you called the game by the rules, that was a problem.
I guess. I mean, what's funny is it was so long ago. I don't even remember us calling that many penalties. What he was mad about is we called like a 5 in a game for elbowing and the other kid's laying on the ice. Like, and we threw him out and he's freaking out about it. Like, and he pulled his team off the ice while this kid's still on the ice. an opposing player. It was something else, let me tell you.
Well, what? Just out of curiosity, when a coach has to come in to a hearing, I assume they have to go to a hearing for this because they get a match penalty. What is the process? What is that conversation like with that coach? And what is usually the response from a coach that's had a game in that situation where they've pulled off and now they've had time to calm down and cool off, and they've probably had a drive to that meeting, and they've probably had 2 hours to sit there and wait to get into that meeting. What's their demeanor when they get there?
I haven't sat in on a session with a coach under this context, but I have sat in on, some same match penalties, but with players. And I can tell you it's pretty intimidating because you're sitting in a room with about 6 or 7 people and you're just explaining yourself. And it's not a situation you want to find yourself in.
I'm sure it's very nerve-wracking.
And then they step out, everybody, gives their thoughts on what should be done, and they come back in, and that's that. But
the jury makes a decision.
It's a very nerve-wracking 30 minutes or more for whoever that is.
Well, it's more than 30 minutes because they had to drive there and they had to sit there and wait their turn to get in there too, I'm sure.
Yep.
So they're going to have a few hours involved in this. Trust me, it's an investment in your time. Probably not worth pulling your team off the ice for. Don't think you want to put yourself in that position. Better to suck it up, take the beating at the ice rink than to have to go there and humble up and take it even worse.
Yeah, and that's why the rule is written that way. So we're trying to give them a chance of, hey, let's not go down this road, but if you really want to, then I have no choice, but I'm giving you chance again to not do this.
Yeah, and as an official, okay, I'm going to point this out. It's no fun to be on the official standpoint either. If a team leaves and you go, oh, okay, and you follow the protocol, which is you're supposed to warn the captain, right, according to USA Hockey, which I like that it's written that way because maybe you'll catch a player or whatever. If you're dealing with children, find an adult, find the assistant coach, find the head coach, something, warn them, proceed with the bench minor. They have 15 seconds to put their team out on the ice. Then you suspend the game. Let's point that out, by the way. You suspend the game.
Suspended game.
And you match the coach, okay? Make sure when you note on the score sheet, game has been suspended, write down the period, write down the time that it was suspended, and then initial that and circle it.
And file the report in a timely manner. And I think you better call somebody as well with that situation.
Call somebody, circle it, make sure that all gets on there. My biggest suggestion is, though, even after you bench them, you have that 15 seconds, try to get them to come back out on the ice. Go knock on their locker room door. Try to. I know we're not always supposed to do stuff like that, but I can tell you for everybody that's involved, if you can convince them to come back out there, it makes everybody's life easier, and including yours, because you guaranteed you are going to get a call if a team leaves the ice. It doesn't matter. And not only that, maybe they had a 2-minute snap, or it wouldn't be that long at that point, but you get what I'm saying. Maybe they'll come to their senses and they'll come back out and finish a hockey game.
Yeah, even the Russians came back out in Philadelphia many, many years ago because they knew they weren't going to get paid. But yeah, it is important. And, when you're counting that 15 seconds, don't sit there and go 1, 2, 3, 4. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's 15. Be a little patient with them. Be a little understanding. Do you agree with that, Eric?
That's where I was just going to go to the same spot and go, Eric, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. You want to try and give them every chance to not hang themselves.
Yeah,
but
exactly. That's a good way of putting it.
If they're going to do what they're going to do, then, there's nothing we can do to stop that.
No, but if you could talk them off the cliff, it's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Try to be human in that situation. I'm sure they're having a bad day and they're upset. So work.
Yeah,
with
you
them.
don't know what's going on. Other than that, outside, you don't know. Maybe their wife served them with divorce papers, or maybe the husband served her with divorce papers because you have a woman coach on the bench. I mean, you don't know. So just try to get through the game.
Way to work that gender angle. Very good, Brad.
I was just pointing it out because there are a lot more.
Yeah,
Scott,
there are.
I don't know about
there
you.
Are.
There are a lot more female coaches now.
Absolutely.
Than there were when I played. Lots.
Had one over the weekend with I think it was a squirt team, as a matter of fact. Had a female on the bench.
Yeah. And I'm
boys team.
But now you know why that rule is on the closed book.
Yeah. And that one appears that's a situation that everybody needs to be aware of and be very familiar with it. So if it happens to you, you know how to handle that situation. You don't want to be in a situation where you don't know how to handle the situation. So,
right.
All right. What else you guys want to cover? We could go back and talk a little bit more about the Tim Peel thing.
I mean, I don't think there's much more to talk about. There was an actual.
We've beaten that dead horse as much as we can.
The NHL did put out, and it states, and it says Tim Peel will no longer be working NHL games. Basically, I lost it. I had it. Here we go.
All right, we got a couple more comments I want to put up here too.
Go ahead.
So let's just go through some of these. Again, if you guys are just joining us, we'd like to welcome you. We do this every Wednesday. And if you'd like, also, you can always feel free to donate to our channel. Brad and I have been doing this for almost a year now, I guess. I'll put this up a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. And it's called Buy Me a Coffee. For all the people that have, and there's quite a few of you that have, we want to thank you very much. We really appreciate it, the support that you guys have given us. And we'd like to thank all the guests that come on the show that have supported the show over the years. I ran into someone last night. I think we're going to have a very special guest, hopefully next week. And that is Kevin Delaney, who is the Blackhawks power skating coach. And he is also the Ice Hogs power skating coach. And I ran into him, talked to him for a while, and he's been wanting to come on, and I think he's got the time to do it. So we're going to try to make that happen next week. I will follow up with him, and hopefully we'll have a thumbnail up for that. All right, let's see what else we got here. We've got Matt. Matt's one of our regular viewers. You've always been my favorite scorekeeper in Chicago. I think he's referring to Karen. So, yeah, Karen does a great job when she's back there. No formal scorekeeper training. Suggest putting one together. Yeah, I mean, actually, like, you could have a 5-minute or a 10-minute video with some questions that you could download at any time on your own to learn how to do a score sheet. Might not be a bad idea. Who could we get to put that together? Would that be something that one of the associations would put together or a team would put together? What do you think about that, Eric?
Yeah, I think we could, maybe kind of team up with some people within AHI and see if we can put something together.
If we did that, couldn't we have something that also would address how to operate the clock? Could we have a little training session? We have some guys that are really, really good with the clock, like showing how to take a penalty down, obviously how to put the penalty up, but a lot of them struggle if you have a double minor. If they got to put 4 minutes on the board, that seems to be a big problem.
There's too many variations.
Yeah.
Like even the score clock, like at some rinks, it may look it's the same company, everything, but the buttons that they put on it are customizable sometimes. And there's different layouts for what you're doing. And that would be extremely long and complicated. And you're just not going to get that. The score sheet thing, though, that could be something, that could be
the score
put out.
sheets vary by organization and by league a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. So, I mean, we could have a couple different variations, but I think you could, what if we could convince the rinks to put together a video for their particular scoreboard that was downloadable? And we
Not
had a
gonna
central
happen.
site where this stuff could be. I mean,
Unfortunately.
yeah, you know,
And
these
then
are
where do
just
you
things
put it?
that would make things more efficient. All right, let's see.
I totally
Up here in
agree.
Minnesota, high school hockey, some coaches aren't putting their teams on the ice because the other team isn't wearing a mask. That's interesting. Now, I don't think we've seen that in Chicago. I can tell you, I was up in a different state. I'll just say a different state over the weekend, observing. And they checked in on Live Barn to see if people were wearing their mask, and you had to wear them for the entire game. It wasn't pull it up for the face-off. It was you had to wear it for the entire game. A guy that works juniors, referee in chief came down and asked him to put the mask on. Apparently he put it on, but made some smart gesture back. When he finished that game, he had been suspended from USA Hockey indefinitely. So they're not playing, folks. I mean, you know, if the referee in chief comes down and asks you to do something, do it, put a smile on your face, yes, sir, and get it done. And don't ask questions. Don't second guess them.
It's weird that you put out that advice if the referee in chief asks you to do something, because our referee in chief, we've asked him to come on here and do something. So it's a little backwards. He should be telling us what to do, shouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, you know, generally he's the boss. You know, he's the referee in chief, so we do listen to him. I mean, you know, but you know, Eric's a great guy, and he's got a great personality, and he's friendly. You know, he's not an intimidating personality until you get in a situation that requires him to be that way. So
the term you're looking for is Eric is always upholding the integrity of USA Hockey and its affiliates.
Yes.
You like how that's put? You can steal that.
I like that.
Put it on your
I like
business
that.
card.
That was good. Why don't you word that and put it on? You know, we'll put it up on the screen.
You can put it as one of those scrolling banners.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. Let's see this. Karen's got a comment here. I should have said, I sometimes struggle. You have a coincidence or a goal and a penalty. First thing to note the time ready to get the penalty from the official and the game resumes before you've started filling it in. Yes. In addition, the score sheet has home, visitor, but on the bench, it's usually visitor. Home, which requires a little more thought. Okay, I have not had to really deal with that. I know that something that I struggle with, we have some rinks that don't indicate home or visitor. One of probably the nicest rinks we have here in Chicago does not have a home or away sign. So when you're looking at the clock, it can be very confusing. I'm sure it's very confusing for the scorekeepers. So, you know, anything you want to say about that? Don't you think all the benches should indicate who's home and away? I mean, you walk into the rink as a spectator, you don't know who's winning or losing until you see somebody score. And if you don't see somebody score, you don't know who's winning or losing. It'd be nice if they would have home or away, or, you know, an H and a V somewhere, even if it's very small, like identified, like so people know. Just
the light in the dark doesn't work for you.
Not really.
No,
really.
It doesn't anymore, because some places where, you know, now they wear
switch
the dark and they change.
And you can have a home team that is normally the home team there, and you find them on the visitor bench because of some league rule that they had to have a home game versus, you know what I'm saying with regard to that.
Yeah.
They're on a different bench.
Always revert back to the score sheet. And if, sometimes things happen and they end up on the wrong bench.
Sometimes they go on the wrong bench. They go on the wrong bench. You know, they start out on the wrong bench, and it's like,
the score sheet is what, the score sheet's going to have the accurate record of who's home and away. And this it goes all back to what's it all go back to? Why are we concerned about this home and away thing? Other than people walking in from the street, who cares? Like, no offense to anybody walking in. As long as the teams know.
At a higher level, the line change is the big thing, okay? Home team gets the last line change.
There's one more.
Go ahead.
Technically in charge of that game and everybody in there?
Oh, home team. Yep. Yeah, that's true.
Everybody inside the facility except for the officiating crew.
Yep. Mark says
I get what you mean.
Each organization, did I get that right? Organization should put on a training class at their rink on how to operate their clock at their rink. Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, that's a great idea. So Mark also says Ahai and Ihoa for the score sheet. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously what I would be thinking as well, Mark. So, yeah, thank you for that comment.
If you want to see 60 dads get together and drink beer in the parking lot before a scoreboard training session, let's go ahead and try that.
Be a good tailgater for them.
it'd be better if somebody did put a video together. But like I said, it'd be extremely difficult. And then even if that, you'd have somebody clicking on the wrong link and they'd be showing up already, and it's a totally foreign, different clock, which sometimes a little bit of knowledge throws the entire ship off course. So, sometimes it's better to have them kind of blind.
Brandon says, as a coach, I teach my manager, then they will run a timekeeping class in the box during, I got to move this so I can see it, during a practice. Easy as that.
That's actually good advice.
That's a nice idea. That's a very nice idea. I've had people that are new. I'm like, well, why don't you, before the game starts, practice putting a penalty up. Try to put a penalty up now while we're in the warm up. I mean, that's a good opportunity. Play with the clock a little bit. Don't worry so much about the 3 or 5 minutes. I'll blow the whistle. I know when to get them started, and you can have a couple seconds to try. If they're interested, I mean, that's a great way to do it. And for the most part, somebody that's taking it serious, they're going to make that effort. So we appreciate what they do. I mean, we get it. They're not professionals. You get to the high school games, a lot of times you have some guys that do the scoreboard on a regular basis, and they're really great at it. There's that one guy, I think he's at Highland Park. I mean, he's like a professional announcer. He comes in, he brings the stream deck in, he connects it into the board. He's got everything. That guy is awesome.
You're talking about the guy with that does the announcements too?
He's awesome.
He does not look like what he sounds like when he does the announcements.
No, he's got the big voice. He's got the announcer voice. He knows how to. We call it puke. In radio, we call it puking. Okay, he knows how to puke properly. That's what we call it in radio. That's a radio term.
I'm grossed out now. Thank you.
When you talk about like this is like when you're puking.
Okay.
That's a radio term, but yeah. But he does a great job, and he's got walks in, he's got all the toys and all the bells and whistles. I offered him some more music. All he has to do is hit me up. So if you're watching the show, send me an email. I'll take care of you. I'll get you some new stuff. All right. Anything else you guys want to go? The time always goes so fast. We're already over an hour. So first of all, thank you, Eric, for joining us today. Certainly appreciate your time and your busy schedule and all that you do for us with hockey, because I know you're very dedicated. Eric, you will find him in the rinks all the time. He comes out, he mentors, he evaluates, he supervises, he puts the time in. He's extremely dedicated to the sport. And, for that, on behalf of all of us, we thank you for that. It's very special in what you do.
I want to point something out, Scott. Before you go, I want to point something out. Eric, why did you get into officiating?
Because I thought I could do a better job than the guys I was watching.
I just thought I'd put it out there. And you had never played hockey before, correct? Not formal hockey, right?
That blows me away. I got to tell you, because
I just wanted to make that point.
That takes guts, okay? If you never played and you wanted to come in and become a referee, and how you rose to referee in chief and you never played, that is truly an amazing feat. I would never pretend to try to go become a lacrosse referee or a soccer referee or a football referee. I could do hockey, I could do tennis. That's probably where it would leave me. I understand those games very well because I played them, but I certainly would not jump into a sport like that. So my hat's off to you, and the fact that you got to this point, I'm blown away.
It started out sitting in the stands complaining that, I could do better than these guys. So instead of just sitting and complaining, I just did something about it. And
all right. Now, I want to take that a step further, because that's actually how I got into it. The men's league referees used to drive me crazy, and I decided to get into it because one of my teammates pushed me into it, who was a referee, and I can't thank him enough for doing that for me. But when you first started, were you overwhelmed at what had to be done and how to do things the first 5 or 10 games that you worked? Were you like blown away at what's going on and how much you were responsible for? Because that's something that I was like totally overwhelmed my first couple games. Like, oh my God, we got to get a score sheet. We got to peg nets. We got to look at this. We got to do this. And we're going to do this in 5 minutes time to get the game started on time. It's unbelievable. You wouldn't know that. And you'd be so focused, you couldn't even look up at the clock to see how much time was left in the period because you didn't want to miss anything. You were just like into it.
Well, for me, it wasn't even the first game. It was the on ice session at the level 1.
Yeah, learning how to drop the puck, okay?
After that was over, I was like, oh my God, you got to pay attention to all this. And then I'll never forget, my first game was a Mike game. And I remember coming off the ice thinking, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Yeah. But
you know, take all that and then put in front of it a 16-year-old or a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Walked out onto their first game.
Yeah.
So I'm just pointing that out to everybody. Eric, I wasn't disrespecting you at all. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew. If you
only had to call icing in the game, if you were a 14-year-old, 16-year-old, and we just said, all you have to do is get icing right. You don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to watch for a penalty. You don't have to watch. You don't have to peg the net. You don't have to do anything. Just watch for the icing. It would be a challenge. That would be a challenge for somebody their first game out. Yeah. And parents do not realize that. And of course, parents expect that they've worked 1,000 games and that they've been trained, beyond anybody's imagination and that it's just going to be that easy. It is not. It is easier to sit in the stands and ref a game than it is to be on the ice because you have to get out of the way of the puck. You have to dodge players. You have so much going on. You're up and down. And, you get players that block you. So, coach is like, oh, that was an easy offside call. How could you miss that? Well, it's real simple. You had 4 guys that were 6'2" in front of you that were 230 pounds, and you have no visibility to the line at that point in time, just at the split second that it occurred. And these are the things that you face on a daily basis out there, game in and game out. So referees getting into proper positioning and things of this nature, it's not that easy. So if you're a parent or you're a coach, it's really easy to sit in the stands and say, well, how did he miss that? The other thing that doesn't get talked about is game management, okay? Game management. Could you call 100 penalties in a game? Probably could. In some of the games, go do a New Trier and Loyola game. You could have 100 penalties in the first period, probably. But I don't think it would go very well for you or for the teams or for anybody else. And it wouldn't be very enjoyable. So each game has a different pulse to it. And maybe this is something you can touch on, Eric, as the referee in chief. We have to adjust to the game. Is a penalty a penalty? Yes. At a squirt game, that little trip in the neutral zone, that's a penalty. They need to learn. In a high-level AAA U16 game, is that little fall down in the neutral zone a penalty? It may or may not be. Was the stick put in there intentionally? Did he pull him down? Or did he reach in to play the puck, even though he went down? These are all things that, there's a balancing act that you have to put together. Am I fair to talk about this, or am I off here?
No, it's a gray area. Big time.
It's kind of funny that you bring that up because USA had a Zoomcast last night on altercations, and our good buddy Billy Hancock was on there. And one of the things that they talked about was take the temperature of the game. Mm-hmm. And it's a hard thing to teach. I don't know if it's just something that comes with time and experience, but absolutely we should know when there's 10 seconds to go, when things are starting to heat up, are 2 guys eventually going to, try and get back at each other because of what happened earlier. Those are all like little things that we need to be paying attention to.
Yep. You're watching.
Well, the NHL just had an excellent example. I forget what game it was. Player cross-checked a player during warmups. Well, as the referee, that those guys are eventually going to meet up, and they're going to scrap. It's going to happen, and it did. That's reading. That's part of reading the temperature of the game. I get what you're saying. Every game has its own personality. Exactly. You could have 2 teams play each other Friday, and then have the exact same referee crew, the exact same participants, everything. the same crowd, they can come in and play Saturday, and it'll be a totally different game.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that.
So I think that's the point that you're trying to get.
Yep. You'll have one game that they'll come in to play hockey. You'll see very few penalties. You won't see any cheap shots. They're dedicated to doing what they do. And then you'll see them back on Sunday, and they have no interest in playing hockey. They're only interested in doing things they shouldn't be doing out there sometimes. This happens.
Right.
And
just
that is what you mean by taking the temperature of the game, and that's absolutely right. There's definitely it's a different pulse to every game is what it is, and I don't think parents always understand that. I know coaches know, but coaches are always hoping that it's going to go their way, and sometimes it doesn't always go their way. It's it's just the reality of things. You may feel that you shouldn't have called that tripping call, but it was a trip. Was it a trip? Did the guy get tripped? But did you need to call it? That's sometimes where they're going with that. They think it should only happen when they benefit from it. And it's tough. I get it. Their job is to win. That's their job. And some of these guys are full-time professionals. This is what they do for a living. And if they don't produce, they may be out. So they're under a lot of pressure as well. The referees are under pressure too. I mean, the referees want to do a great job. I don't know a single ref that is going to go out there and be like carefree, like, I saw it, I didn't see it. Every ref is working as hard as they can. They are skating as hard as they can. They are focused 110%. They are trying to do the best job that they possibly can. Just know that. Yes, referees do work 6 games in a day sometimes. And, you get that 100-yard stare. It happens. It's a little tougher. You lose focus. By the 6th game, it can be a little tough.
Good movie drop.
You like that?
You got the 100-yard stare. Yeah, well, I said your war face at a level 1 seminar.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody understood what it was except for, I think, Council. All the kids on the ice, they looked at me like, what? I'm like, it's from a movie. Anyhow, I got nothing else today, Scott. You're at an hour 15.
Am I off my soap? Do I get off my soapbox now?
No, you didn't. You didn't bring up puck face-offs, so we're good.
No, I don't need to go there. I've already made my point on that many times. How was your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, though?
Oh, don't start with me. No, let's skip that. We make sub sandwiches in this house,
right?
Which my wife made last night for dinner. So
nice.
Lunch is coming.
I thought you ordered out all the time. Every time I call you, you're ordering out. Like, hang on, I'm still placing the order for pizza or spaghetti or whatever it is.
You call me you call me on Friday, and it's
that's
wife doesn't want to cook on the weekend. She's got to take the kids everywhere. Yeah,
I know it's busy.
So, but like I said, I didn't want to call Eric out on not playing the game or anything. That was not disrespectful at all. That was we have people that are very prestigious in the game and where we're at, and you don't have to have played the game. Like, if you're interested in the game and you want to referee, come on out. Maybe you'll have some fun and make some friends.
Did you ever play later, now that you've been a referee and you've been around the game? Did you ever go play some men's league or some rat hockey or anything?
Men's league's past my bedtime.
He doesn't have too many knocks to the head.
I think the Elite League plays early in the morning on Sundays. You can get up early. Sunday fun day.
Also not a morning person, so I'm 0 for 2.
Yeah, that's how I am. I'm not a morning guy. A little bit more now than I used to be, but I'm a night owl. That's why Brad likes to call me at 1 o'clock in the morning. You up? Yeah, of course I am.
Well, I know that you had games. It's not like it's unusual.
Even if I don't have games, I'm still up at that hour. It's I don't go to bed before 1 o'clock, at least. All right. Well, guys, we thank you for joining us. We appreciate your taking the time. We do this every Wednesday. It is the Ref Room. If you like the channel and you'd like to help support us, you can buy us a coffee. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/refroom. Really easy to do. For all those of you that have supported us, we want to thank you for that. We truly appreciate it. And, I think we've got a great show lined up for next week if we can pull this off. Mr. Delaney said he would do it, and as long as his schedule permits. If not, he will definitely come on, so I'm looking forward to doing that. We're going to get some insight into one of in my opinion, one of the best guys to teach hockey. If you want to learn how to skate and edge work, which is so important to, being a good referee, let alone being a good player, edge work is critical. So here's a guy that really is good at it, and hopefully he'll join us next week. With that, we thank you for joining us, guys. Have a great week.
Closing thoughts, Scott.
Yeah.
Eric, what happens at midnight Mountain Time today?
Oh, yeah.
Registration closes.
Yeah.
For referees. So you got to be done with everything.
How many guys do we have that are on the fence there that have not finished, that need to finish, Eric?
Too many.
That's what I kind of figured. That's a good answer. But yeah, tonight is the deadline, 11:59 Mountain Time, not Chicago time, not Eastern time. It's Mountain Time.
Oh, yep.
Mountain Time.
So when I call you tonight, that's when it'll be in effect.
There you go. And if you haven't finished, guys, you owe it to yourself to finish now, because you're going to save yourself. You'd only be a level 1 for a short period of time. You'll be a level 2 next year. You'd have that opportunity to move up that quick. So, I mean, you can't ask for a better move than to get it done now and take advantage of that. It's a great opportunity being offered to you, and you'll thank us for it later. Trust me, that you only had to be a level 1 for Spring League, and that was it. And we will get busy again, right, Eric? I mean, it's quieted down a little bit. By the way, congratulations to Bob and Chad at New Trier, and congratulations to Jeff Marks at GBN on a nice victory.
There you go.
Guys want it? We'll just leave it at that, right?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I mean, you could throw out a congratulations to Jack Young.
Yeah,
referee,
Jack,
local boy.
That's right. Jack, who a lot of you guys have worked with. We've worked with him. If you've been a referee over the last 5-6 years, you've probably had the opportunity to work with Jack, who is a great young guy, and he worked his first game in the AHL, was it last night, as a referee. So congratulations. I know Jack has wanted to move up. He's been very anxious for many years to be working at that level, and he's done it. So congratulations. I mean, I don't know, is he like 20, 21, something like that? Do you know? He's pretty young.
He's got to be 22.
22?
21, 22, somewhere in there.
He's a youngster. But
I've known him for a long time. So it's rough.
I know. We've known him since he was in the ADP program, basically. So very happy for him, and congratulations. Well-deserved. And we wish you a long, prosperous career in hockey. All right. With that, thanks for joining us, everybody. Eric, thank you for being with us. Brad, always a pleasure. I'll probably talk to you at 1 o'clock in the morning tonight, okay? All right.
I got to work tomorrow.
It's the Ref Room. We'll see you next Wednesday at noon Chicago time. Peace.